We got really lucky. When we started this setup, we had designed our engine areas for those Yanmar, the 3 YMs. Once we decided to go hybrid, we knew that there was going to be a chance that we're going to have to change the engine bed. We're going to have to change this configuration around. So we stopped. What you can see right here, we actually glassed this side, did not glass that engine bed. We knew that there was a possibility that this was all going to need to be modified. Come to get the final dimensions for it, we're adding roughly, because of that different gearbox, PRM 150 hydraulic gearbox, the way the electric drive attaches, it's kind of a crank wheel that goes on the bottom, and where the belt drive is for that, and then the decoupler mechanism. That ends up adding about 14 inches to the back end of the engine. In this space, it should be able to fit. And then the problem is the way that we design the engine beds. Since it was designed just for the Yanmar and the way that their gearbox is designed, there isn't a lot of depth to it. Basically where the engine mount is, you have the oil pan that sticks down a little bit. Beyond that, there isn't much depth there. And so when we designed the engine bed, you can see it tapers down. And what that did is that allowed me to get the least amount of angle in this and still have the prop be able to clear the hull. Well, it was great. But now that we're doing that hybrid system, and that flywheel is a pretty large thing on the end of the engine itself, we really don't have the depth there. So what we need to do is we need to move the engine a bit further forward. That helps out balance. We want all the weight we possibly can as far forward as possible. And it's partially the reason why this boat has shaft drives instead of sail drives, is to get that engine weight a little bit further. We're gonna push it a little bit more this direction. Problem is that we installed this bulkhead. If you remember a year ago now, we installed this bulkhead in this position, which is the way it was originally on the drawings. This is bulkhead 7. 8 behind us, 6 in front of us. So it kind of bisects. It's right dead in the middle of both of those. And what we're going to do is we're going to make a ring frame. So cut out the middle of it, reinforce it, and then we can put the engine in between that, and it'd still have enough clearance that we can get to things, but not as great of a setup. Once we decided that we could do without that, the idea was to move this bulkhead, put this in place. Now that isn't in the plans at all. That bulkhead doesn't exist at all in the plans. But we're making up for cutting this bulkhead that we put in here by putting that one in and giving that extra strength there. So all great until we decided to do hybrid. Now, because of that extra 14 inches, we need that space back. So we need to be able to push the engine further this direction. My task for today is to cut that bulkhead out. We're going to make it kind of a quasi ring frame, kind of a U-shaped frame with this. So we still can have some of that strength in it. And then we're just going to reinforce the heck out of that thing. And we'll be able to put the engine in between these, try to get it as smooth of an install as we possibly can have once we get those hybrid systems in. It'll be fairly easy. You can see where I diagrammed the lines. Cutting out here, just going to keep it flush with this. And then on the other side of it, you can see we already have a floor in. Now this is the 3rd time we've actually installed that floor, because again, we've modified this a few times in the past. So this will be, I think, 4th time that we're cutting up this floor. Awesome. You can see the floor height right now is right around this point. So when we cut this flush, we're going to actually be going underneath that floor, which means I need to cut that whole floor itself out, and then we'll end up extending out the engine beds, glassing that in finally, and it should all be good. But we're happy because this is the only modifications we've had to do. The other side, because it's just an electric motor, that can keep exactly the way we were, which gives us nice storage, gives us a lot of great options over on that side. On the port side, which is where the actual engine, the diesel engine, is going to be, this is the one that's going to require a bit more work, but again, it's small price to pay for that awesome, awesome system we're very excited to get. So I guess the good thing is that it didn't tear apart easy. That's a good testament to the glass and how strong that actually is. Oh, that was unbelievable. What it ended up doing is actually breaking apart the double bias glass into the 2 layers of 45. So it actually tore those along the lines. And that's what you see there. There's what remains of 1.5 layers. So there's 2 layers on this. It ended up splitting the first layer. You can see the movements of it on here. First layer of double bias is what actually remained, which I'm very happy with. That seems like a good point to tear. It did lose adhesion off the bulkhead itself. It ripped among itself within that fiberglass, that matrix there, which is to me a good sign. I don't know for sure, but continue to cut all this out. Cut out the floor all the way around there, and then I can start reconstruction hopefully tomorrow. The sides of the engine bed are now built in, kind of roughly in place, and just kind of using that structural putty to hold them in there. Gonna clean them up in this area and down here and get that first layer of glass in here, and then I can start filling it. I'm gonna sandwich a bunch of layers of leftover cut up foam coring, little pieces like this, and just to build in that thickness in there to give me something when I pour in the rest of that structural foam. Because again, the big strength for this is just acting as a coring. The big strength for this is going to be all that glass that goes over the top of it later. But should get this all set, hopefully have that today where I can do a pour and start filling it in, and then I can cap it and start that glass work. If you look down there, you can see that it's actually foaming in. So the nice thing with this stuff is it stays liquid for a while, and going in and getting in through all the little crevices, all the little areas around here, and filling in and making this all one big piece. Yeah, since this is only acting as a core, all we care is that these are held together well, and in this area. Actually, the extra glass in there probably is going to tie them in even more. So, working out well. And getting rid of scrap. Recycle. Reuse, reuse, recycle.
It is such a beautiful day here in Kentmore this morning. I am like literally skipping my way off to the tent because today in the owner's hall between bulkheads 5 and 6 we are getting our coat of final primer on. We're switching, we're still within the All Grip family. This is called All Quick. It's the last primer that you put on before you paint. It's supposed to be much easier to sand. It goes on much thinner. It's not high build, so a little nervous, very excited. Cannot wait to see the finished product. Finished primer. Scary thought to be thinking. Now I want to say second guessing everything I've done up in that hole, but this is not going to hide anything. This is just to go on before paint, and I'm actually starting to get really nervous now. converter, such a pretty like buttercup yellow color. I can't wait to see it actually on the walls. It's gonna be so close to white in the finished product. The owner's hallway, which was just about to receive its first coat of finish primer, had already been hit twice with our high build primer. Between coats, I'd also gone through with our epoxy fairing compound to fill in any low or uneven spots.
Right. Canceled all my plans to be with you tonight. So just sit with me, talking to the night until the morning, building chemistry. I don't think I ever wanna go, come closer next to me. Trying to find another way to say this, but I think we were meant to be. You make me anxious.
Ta-da! Look at this beautiful space. I am still in love with the buttercup yellow. I just tried to talk Matt into keeping something similar to this as our final color because white is white, but I think I hear him grumbling down there. No, we're not going yellow. But I think the All Quick did a great job going on. The line, the chine here that we have been working on forever, which I just taped up yesterday, trying to get it as flat as possible. You can tell it still needs a little bit of work, but we're getting closer on that. The daggerboard case is looking awesome. Bulkhead 5 up here, and the cabinet for Matt's clothing and the hanging locker, and Georgie's litter box. Our little seat that's right next to the berth here, you can tell we need some touching up in corners like that, so I'll go through one more time with epoxy fairing compound. But overall, it's looking really nice and so much more finished. And I know this isn't white, but I think this is the closest that we've experienced to having it look like the finished product. So we're actually about to take a few days away from the boat build, go see family. I know a few of you have been saying that we've been looking tired in the comments. Yes, we are getting very burned out because we've been at this for 2 months now without breaks, other than the St. Michael's trip to see the Cowboys last weekend. But we're gonna let this sit on here. We'll start sanding when we get back. It will need 380 before we go over it with the next coat. But I think this area is getting really close to being done and ready for its actual first coat of paint, which is super exciting. Okay, so now once we get back, I'm gonna start rushing through, well, not rushing through, but working incredibly hard through the other areas, the other hull, to get it to this stage too, because this is a huge, huge mood booster and spirit lifter to have it finally coming together like this. So stay tuned. The fairing, the priming, the sanding is kind of coming toward an end. We're gonna get through these areas and then into trims and veneers and latches and hatches and things like that. So I think we're finally starting to get over the hump. Last week, you saw us introduce our partnership with SouthCo for hinges and latches. And Matt tested out one of the compression latches for our forward sail locker. After making sure it was spaced properly and worked as we wanted it to, his next task is to drill out the foam core around these holes so he can backfill them with thickened resin.
Weapon of choice. see. So this is an okay way to get it out, using a kind of router bit. Of course, I could have taken the router actually here, but I wanted a little bit slower, or a lot slower of speed, so I can control it, because there isn't much glass on the back side, and so there's nothing that a bearing can ride on or anything like that, and the top side's fairly thin too. Router bit, I can control it a bit better, and that's the first decided to use. It worked out great. And then my little key thing got the other pieces. So all I need to do now is tape up this hole, and I can fill it with thickened resin. And then eventually we'll sand it down, make it all nice and pretty, and then be able to put that pretty hardware back in. But that's the whole idea with today, is to get all these holes drilled and get the resin in there so it's got a nice base for it. Because before I go through and gel coat all of this and fill in these and make it so it's all perfect, you can see I've already got little chips in there. I want to make sure I make all my messes on deck now before I go through and have to then touch up after we've gotten everything all set. So that's kind of the idea, is to get all this stuff in place, make sure it looks good, make sure it's all set the way it's supposed to, then take it back off. We'll store it away so we don't have to worry about it getting damaged at all. But now I can go through and fix those little gel coat chips before I put them down for the last time. Shame to only have these on for a brief period right now. We are gonna package them up all nicely, put them away so they don't get any damage, they don't get spray on them, more dust, all that kind of stuff, and they will come back out in a couple of months once we're done with deck work. But again, this is just the cam latch. You're gonna see a bunch of other stuff coming from SouthCo, because all of our interior fittings are from them. Our cockpit, a lot of the stuff in the stern is going to be all SouthCo. And again, the reason why we chose them is because they actually have 3/16 stainless steel, which apparently is now a rarity in the marine world. I don't know why. A lot of the stuff is 304, which eventually gets rust streaks all over, and I do not want to have to chase that. We're trying to make this as maintenance free as possible. And so one way of doing that is going with actual 3/16 stainless and a quality job that's not going to leave rust stains everywhere.
Once you